Good morning. I'm Stephen Leake. I'm an elder at First Presbyterian Church in Mesquite, Texas, and I'm also one of the teachers of the Discipleship Sunday School class there. Today we continue with our study of the Gospel of John, and I'd like to remind you that our curriculum is based upon the Daily Bible Study Series by Professor William Barclay, and that we're using the New Revised Standard Version of the Bible for our scripture readings. Today we begin the study of chapter 20, which is the resurrection and what it means to us as Christians. So our scripture reading today is John 1 through 10. Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the tomb. So she ran and went to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, and said to them, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him." Then Peter and the other disciple set out and went toward the tomb. The two were running together, but the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He bent down to look in and saw the linen wrappings lying there, but he did not go in. Then Simon Peter came, following him, and went into the tomb. He saw the linen wrappings lying there, and the cloth that had been on Jesus' head, not lying with the linen wrappings, but rolled in a place by itself. Then the other disciple who reached the tomb first also went in, and he saw, and he believed. For as yet they did not understand the scripture that he must rise from the dead. Then the disciples returned to their homes. No one ever loved Jesus as much as Mary Magdalene. He had done something for her that no one else could do, and she could never forget. Luke 8:2 and Mark 16:9 tell us that Jesus had cured Mary by casting 7 demons from her. And Luke 8:2 states that Mary was one of the women who traveled with and supported Jesus with their resources. It was the custom in Palestine to visit the tomb of a loved one for 3 days after the body had been laid to rest. It was believed that the spirit of the dead person hovered around the tomb for 3 days. But then it departed because the body had become unrecognizable through decay. Jesus' friends could not come to the tomb on the Sabbath because to travel was considered work, and that violated the law. The Sabbath is our Saturday, so it was on a Sunday morning that Mary came to the tomb. She came very early, it says, probably during the last watch, from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., because it was still dark when Mary came to the tomb. She could no longer stay away. When she arrived at the tomb, she was amazed and shocked. Tombs in ancient times were not commonly closed by doors. In front of the opening was a groove in the ground, and in the groove ran a circular stone, which opened and closed the tomb. Matthew tells us that the authorities had actually sealed the stone to make sure that no one could move it, in Matthew 27, verse 66. So Mary was astonished to find it removed. 2 things may have entered her mind. First, she may have thought that Jesus' body had been taken away by the Jews to inflict further indignities on his body. Second, there were ghoulish people who made it their business to rob tombs, and Mary may have thought that this had happened here. It was a situation that Mary felt that she could not face herself, so she returned to the city to find Peter and John. Mary is the supreme example of one who went on loving and believing even when she could not understand. One of the illuminating things in this story is that Peter was still the acknowledged leader of the apostolic band. So Mary went to him, In spite of his denial of Jesus, he was still the leader. We often speak of Peter's weakness and instability, but there must have been something outstanding about a man who could face his fellow men after that disastrous crash into cowardice. A moment's weakness must not blind us to the fact that Peter was a born leader. Mary went to Peter and John, and they immediately set out for the tomb. John, who must have been younger, outraced Peter to the tomb. When they came into the tomb, John deferred to Peter, and Peter entered first. Peter was only amazed at the empty tomb, but questions began to arise in John's mind. If someone had removed Jesus' body, if tomb robbers were at work, why would they leave the grave clothes behind? Something else struck him. The grave clothes were not disheveled or disarranged. They were lying there still in their folds. The clothes for the body where the body had been, and the napkin where the head had lain. The whole point of the description is that the grave clothes did not look as if they had been put off or taken off. They were lying there in their regular folds, as if the body of Jesus had simply evaporated out of them. That sight suddenly penetrated John's mind. He realized what had happened, and he believed. It was not what he had read in Scripture what convinced him that Jesus had risen. It was what he saw with his own eyes. The part that love plays in this story is extraordinary. It was Mary who loved Jesus so much, who was first at the tomb. It was John, the disciple whom Jesus loved and who loved Jesus, who first believed in the resurrection. That will always be John's great glory. He was the first man to understand and to believe. Love gave him eyes to read the signs and a mind to understand. Here we have a great law of life. In any kind of work, it's true that we really cannot interpret the thought of others unless there's a bond of sympathy between us and them. It's clear when a musician is in sympathy with the music of the composer. Love is the great interpreter. Love can grasp the truth when intellect is left groping and uncertain. Love can realize the meaning of a thing when logic is blind. We cannot understand Jesus unless we take our hearts to him as well as our minds. Thanks for joining me again this morning. God bless each and every one of you.